Hi everyone, it's me Darlene. It is time for another Upcycled Fashions video. I am using two shirts that I thought were men's shirts, but they're women's shirts. One has a nice crepey feel to it. The other one has like a suede feel, but it's very lightweight. They're similar in color, but not quite. I am going to somehow put these two together and make a skirt out of it. I'm very anxious to get started. I really have no clue what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to take you over to the sewing table and we're just going to give it a go and see what I can come up with. The first thing I'm going to do is deconstruct these two shirts just so I can see what I have for fabric and what other things I have to work with. Now these sleeves have this nice little tab with a buttonhole that is used to scrunch the sleeve up, and then there's a button on the shirt to hold the sleeves up to like a 3/4 length sleeve. So I have a feeling those could come in quite handy. So we have a sleeve, and you see this is the button that goes with this tab. If somebody wanted to scrunch up the sleeve, they could do that and then button it and the sleeve stayed up. Next sleeve. Now this, I will use a seam ripper and rip that off because then it won't make a hole in the fabric. Boy, that was really on there. Okay, there's that tab and that button. Let's do the other side. And another tab and another button. But on this one, I ended up making a hole in the fabric, so we'll just have to work around that. I'm going to cut the collar off. Going to leave the buttons on for now, just because I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. So we have one nice big piece of fabric right here. We have two pieces of fabric from the sleeves. We'll cut the front pieces off. We certainly have some fabric to work with here, and also here, and even here. Now let's move on to this shirt. Now we can open up these sleeves. Not too much fabric, but some. And we also have a little tab going on here too, with a button on it. I'm going to just leave it on there for now. Now, one thing is this shirt has two pockets. So I'm going to cut those pockets out with a generous seam allowance. And I'm thinking that they could possibly be put back onto the skirt somehow. We have a nice big piece of fabric now to work with from the back of this shirt. And now let's see what we're going to do here with the pockets. I'm going to cut below the pocket like a good inch. Then I'm going to just cut around it about an inch all around. Now this pocket. And we have one more piece of fabric here. Okay, let's do inventory. So we have various pieces of fabric, and some of the fabric still has buttons on it. We have two pockets, some other pieces of buttons and buttonholes, those two tabs, and two buttons there. Now I'm going to sit back and digest all of this and try to figure out a plan. And I will probably be back only tomorrow now. Hi everyone, it is tomorrow. I have decided that I'm going to make a smaller skirt so I can keep it as long as possible. It'll go on my smaller mannequin. And it's going to be a skirt with like rows across going down. That way when I run out of fabric, that's as long as the skirt can be. I may have to do some patchwork just to make some of the strips long enough, but for the waistband, I'm just going to cut two strips across and I'm going to see how big I can get them. and I will be sewing those together, and then I will show you what I did. Okay, I was able to get 2 strips of fabric out of that one side of the shirt. I am going to now put them right sides together, and I'm going to stitch just on one side to make that one long piece of fabric. Okay, now we have one long piece of fabric. So I'm just going to continue making strips that same length, and then I will be back. It is tomorrow. I'm not really liking this project. It's just coming out so plain compared to what I envisioned. And I have been thinking about how I could spiff it up, like maybe adding some extra fabric that I already have. But I've decided I'm just going to make a simple skirt. So let's just move forward with what we've got. I have cut various strips. They alternate crepe, suede, crepe, suede, crepe, suede. There's a name for this. It's not suede like I'm calling it. And I know what it is. And I will think of it, and I will let you know. This last piece here, you can see I didn't have enough fabric, so I had to put 4 pieces together. So there's some seams. We're going to be okay with that. So what I'm going to do is put these strips together, and then I'm going to see how long this skirt would be on my mannequin. And if I feel like I need it a little bit longer, then we can piece together some more fabric for one more row. But I think this is going to be good. So I'm going to start with these 2 top rows, and I'm going to put the right sides together, and I want my seams to match like that, the 2 seams. So let's just go over to the machine. The easiest way to make sure your seams match, put your seams together, and then you start here and just go down one side, and then we come back and go down the other side. So that's what I'm going to do. Now I just go back to the center, and I'm going to go in the opposite direction. You can see that my seams matched perfectly. You don't have to aim for perfect, but doing it the way I just did it makes it about as perfect as you can get. So I am just going to continue putting these strips together off camera. The same way I just did those 2. I will now connect this one to that top piece, and then I'll just keep going, and then I'll be back. I actually like how this is coming out. The blues together in the different textures, awesome. I remembered now what the suede feeling fabric is called. Peach skin, because it feels exactly like the skin of a peach. And the other thing is, I had forgotten on my first 2 strips to do zigzag after, and so I went back and did that. So now I'm just going to continue, and you'll see me when I'm done putting these together. It is the next day, and you can see I have all my rows put together. It makes a nice piece of fabric, and what I'm going to do is just fold this in half, and I'm going to cut to even off the side. Okay, I'm just going to go to the machine now and sew this side seam. And now zigzag. Now, without leaving the machine, I am going to hem the bottom of the skirt. I chose this crepe to be for the waistband. I thought that would be more comfortable for the waistband. So I am going to hem the bottom of this skirt. Just going to fold it over twice and stitch. I have decided that I'm going to do a simple sewn-in elastic waistband, and that will keep more of the length of the skirt because I don't have to make a casing. So I'm going to just do a double fold and stitch just like I did for the bottom, and then I'll show you how I put in the elastic. Okay, I went up to the mannequin and I'm trying to get a size that would fit the small mannequin. So I decided that I needed about a 23-inch piece of elastic. I'm going to go to the machine and connect the ends of the elastic. Just going to make sure that I'm not twisted. I'm going to put my 2 ends overlapping I'm going to do zigzag up and down. Move it over and do it on this side too. So we have something that looks like this. This isn't the prettiest or the cleanest waistband, but nobody is going to see it unless they're looking on the inside of your skirt. We want to find our 4 points on the elastic, the 2 side seams and the center of the front and back. So where you just stitched, I'm just going to go ahead and put a pin there. So I'll have the pin ready to pin onto the skirt. Just going to have that folded in half and put a pin on the other side too. Just stick the pin in there somewhere so it stays. Now I'm going to put those 2 pins together in the center, and I'm going to mark each side because that'll be the front and back. And on this side. As for the skirt, we obviously know where the 2 side seams are because there's an actual seam. So I'm just going to fold the skirt in half so that I can mark where the front and back is. Right here is the front and back, so I'm going to stick a pin in each of those just to give me an about where I need to be. Alright, so let's open this up. We can start with this side seam. I'm going to take one pinned side of the elastic and I'm going to put it on the side seam and I'm going to rest it just under that nice hem that we just made. And I'm going to pin that there. Now let's go over to the center. I'm going to match these 2 pins together. I'm going to take this one out because I don't need it. And I'm going to just pin this elastic right there. So when I sew, I know I have to stretch that elastic out this much, and I'm going to stretch while I sew with a zigzag stitch. The other side seam, going to match the pin up to the side seam, pulling the pin out, pinning the elastic in place. And then for the other part, I'm going to match up pin to pin, taking one pin out, taking the other pin out, and using it to pin. So now we're ready to go sew. So as you see, I'm putting the elastic just under that finished hem that we created. I'm going to start at the top of the elastic, the part that's closest to the hem. I'm going to take that pin out, drop my foot, let's put the needle in, and I have the other pin and elastic coming up. So I'm going to hold that with one hand and stretch. And with the elastic stretched like this, I'm going to sew a zigzag along one edge of the elastic. I'm going to do that all the way around. Then I will come back and do the other edge so that the elastic lays flat. So you can see where I've gone all the way around on one side of that elastic. Now I'm going to lay my elastic down at the machine again, and I'm just going to stretch, and I'm going to sew all along the other side of the elastic. You just make sure that your fabric is not gathered underneath, you know, and that it's all nice and flat. And we are done the skirt, and this is what the waistband looks like on the outside. This is what it looks like on the inside. Since this skirt did not come out to the style of skirt that I hoped for, and that I didn't get to use the pockets on it or anything like that, I'm going to use these pockets to make a little tote bag to go with that skirt. Here's what I've done so far. I took the 2 sleeves of the crepey fabric and I have them right sides together. I laid the 2 pockets approximately just to know like how big I'd like the tote. And I'm just going to go ahead and cut 2 pieces of the tote bag. Just going to eye it. I'm just going to go ahead and cut and then I'll straighten it out. Alright, I'm going to take these 2 off now. And I'm just going to make this into a nice, somewhat even rectangle. What I'm going to do to these pockets is I'm going to the iron and I'm just going to fold back and press. I found it was easier to just put my pocket down, fold back the fabric until I saw the edge of that pocket and then press. So when I stitch this down, I'll just be top stitching along the actual pocket. It'll be a little bit different color thread, but that's okay. And of course, I'll have to open this and not stitch down this flap. And I'm also going to leave the top unstitched, so you'll be able to put something behind this, and so you don't have to always deal with opening the button, but you would have a pocket in the front also if you wanted. So I'll show you. It'll make more sense as we go. At this point, I'm going to trim back around all those pieces that will be just tucked away on the inside of the pocket. I'm leaving about a 1/2 inch that will still be folded in, so that when I sew the pocket onto the tote, it'll be all a nice, clean, and finished edge. I think we have the right width, and I think we have the right depth. So I'm going to just try to, as good as possible here. First, I want to take this, just the top layer off. That's the other piece of the tote, the back. And I'm going to pin these pockets on there. Now I'm going to go to the machine, and I'm going to start at the top of the pocket, go down, across, and up. I will make sure that my edges are tucked under. I am not going to sew the top because that's going to give us a pocket and a pocket. This is exciting. I forgot that I need to place this pin lower because I need to undo this pocket so I can lift the flap so that that pocket is still functioning. And I'm just going to start way up the top here. I'm going to just stitch on top of the line that's already on the pocket. I should have done a step before putting it on here. I mean, this part is good, really like that, but I should have stitched across just the top of the pocket since it wasn't going to be sewn onto this. I can still do it. It's just going to be a little bit more clumsy because I'm already onto that other piece, but let's see what we can do. Okay, I can button this one again. I think we did a good job. Nice pocket. I'm going to reinforce right here. This top part can be sewn. That doesn't affect the flap of the pocket. So I'm going to stitch right here and right here. That way, putting your hand in there or a phone or whatever won't rip the sides. I'm gonna like using pockets like this. Okay, for this other one, I'm going to go ahead and remove this pin. Just put it down lower so I can go ahead and stitch across the top of this first. Now, I'm going to tuck in my sides. Oops, I have to undo the button. Lift the pocket flap. There's a lot to remember. Sorry, I got confused with camera on, camera off. I have no clue at this point what I have recorded. I have to look at editing. I stitched this pocket on, and now I'm just going to reinforce the top like I did the other side. And we have pockets. That can be this way and or this way. You guys, I'm having more fun coming up with how to make this purse than I was with the actual skirt. I have an idea. The peach skin shirt had sleeves that had like a button like that on the side. So here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to sew this along the top, but I'm going to cut the flap off. So let's just tuck it under there. I'm going to leave the button there. Then on the other side, I'm going to leave the tab on. I could leave the button on too, or I could just take the button off. And then I'm going to sew this to the other side. And then this flap can come over and tie onto the button, and that will actually close the purse. Huh? Let's do this. So far all I did is I cut the tab off, and I'm keeping that little sucker. That might come in handy for even another tote bag at some point. I'm going to cut about a 1/2 inch below that button so that I can stitch this onto the bag. Before I worry about the other side, I'm going to go ahead and stitch that so we can see what it looks like. All I'm going to do is lay down this side of the purse face up, and then you see that I left some seam allowance below the button. That's below. And I'm going to put this face down. Going to keep my button in the middle. And I'm just going to sew across. When I press that open, ooh, we have something that looks like this. I'm going to do the exact same for the other side. And I will be sewing that to the other piece. Ooh, I better try to find my center though, since I don't have pockets to judge by. Center's like right about there. I'm leaving that little button on there because I have a plan for it. And this side is going to look like this. So we have one side like this. I just like it. I think I'll do some top stitching on here to hold it down. But first let's see what we have here for accuracy. And let's see if that button placement will work. Voila! That's going to be the closure. So now that that is put together, I'm going to square off the actual tote bag. Actually, you know what? I'm going to turn this inside out and square it off, because then I can just go right to the machine and stitch the 3 sides. On this side, the side to the pocket stitching is just a hair over 1 inch. So I'm going to do the same here, just over 1 inch. Now I'm going to go and just stitch around 3 sides, obviously leaving the top open. And now I'm going to zigzag all around. I do want to go ahead and top stitch that down. I just think it will look cool with some stitching there. I could have done that before I sewed this together, but it's pretty easy to do even though it's already sewn together. So let's do that. Just going to sew just a little bit under the seam that we already created, using my foot as a guide. I will be going to press that, but I just think that helps. It gives it a finished look. I will be making a lining for this purse, but I feel like working on the strap right now. I have quite a few pieces of the crepe that are kind of long, and I want to make a nice long strap. I want this to be able to like really go over the shoulder and across the body, kind of hang like on the hip. So I want to make the strap, and then I'll know what I have left over for fabric for the liner. Here's another thing I want to do. This came from, I don't remember. Oh, the part of the shirt that was to hold up the sleeve. And remember I just took those tabs off? This is going to be part of the strap, and I'm going to have it on the outside of the tote. I thought I can take a white button from the rest of the other shirt and just sew it on there because it's just decorative. It doesn't have to open. But then look at what I thought. I happen to have 2 buttons here. I'm just going to button this, and then I'm just going to sew around and then cut the fabric away. So that's a whole lot easier than sewing on buttons that are not functional. I can just do it this way. So I just know I want my strap to be this wide so it matches this thing. I'm thinking I need to cut pieces about 3.5 inches wide because I'm going to do my just fold over and stitch kind of strap. I don't like to turn straps. So I'd rather cut a little bit too big than not big enough because I can always trim, but I can't make it bigger. So I'm taking a chance here with 3.5, and I'm going to hopefully be able to get enough here. Alright, I'm going to go stitch these 3 pieces together and see how long of a strap we have so far. This strap should be plenty long because we're also going to have these pieces attached. Now I'm just going to go press this, and then I'm going to fold in a 1/2 inch on each side and press all the way down. And now that I've done that, I'm going to fold it in half and press all the way down. And you can see it's almost exactly the same size as this strap. I am going to be stitching down the open side of this. When I get to the end, I'm going to attach one of these on the top, stitch around. When I get to the buttonhole, I'm going to have this buttoned onto here, stitch around. Just going to do that around the whole thing. Then when I'm done, I'll be able to just cut the fabric underneath this. Let's go see if I can accomplish this step, and then we have to think about a lining for the bag. As I'm coming to the end, I'm going to fold this bottom up a little bit, and then I'm going to put this on there. And I'm just going to stitch over that whole thickness. And then when I'm done, I will come and add some top stitching there to finish it off. And at this point, I'm going to cut one of these buttons off, right like that. I'm going to put it here. Now I'm just going to sew. So now where I attached the tab to the fabric, I am going to go and stitch across right here, and then on the back side I'm going to make sure that that's tucked in nice, and I'm going to stitch there. Both of those turned out extremely sloppy. I mean, I just don't know why that was so difficult to do. I'm leaving it. Now I'm just going to cut away the excess fabric here. I'm just trying to cut as close as I can, like kind of putting my scissors under that little ridge. That's awesome. You wouldn't know that there was fabric behind there. Strap is done. I really don't have any big pieces of fabric left for a lining. I mean, I have like things that I could piece together, but, you know, I just don't think I want to bother with all that. I mean, see, I have just like lots of little pieces. Since this is not very thick, I think I'm going to go ahead and pull something kind of stiff and rugged from my stash and use that for the lining. I think this will be good. It's a nice rugged fabric. It's going to give the tote bag some substance. That's what we're going to use. Since I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing, I'm going to cut a generous amount of fabric. I'm going to be doing this lining in a different way than I do my crazy quilt tote bags. I'm going to actually just make like a lining and stick it in there, and it's going to have a finished edge, and then I'm just going to like put the edge a little bit below this edge and stitch it down all the way around. I think that's what I'm doing. So I just need to allow for a little bit of seam allowance all around. And the top, I'm going to leave it a little bit longer because I'm actually going to be double folding that and hemming it. All right, I'm going to go stitch 3 sides. Okay, this looks pretty good. What you want is you want to make sure that the 2 tops kind of match, because what I'm going to do is double fold this and stitch all around, and then I'm going to be sewing that to the inside of the purse, and you want to make sure that it will fit. I'm going to double fold and stitch all around. I am tucking this inside. I think this is going to work. I'm going to start on one of the side seams, and I'm going to just stitch this down about a little more than 1/4 of an inch down so it doesn't stick out the top of the bag. Look! How pretties! Do love! Now all we have left to do is the strap, attach the strap that I'm not happy with. This feels really good now. That's a nice heavy fabric. I'm glad I went with that. You know what? This is long enough that I'm going to cut this and do a better job. Couldn't I do that? Let me think about it. Hi everyone, it is again the next day, and I'm going to tell you the honest truth. I lost an entire night of sleep because of this sloppiness here. Because I dwell on things like that. Now, if this were my purse, I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care at all, and that's why I want you guys to know, just sew. Don't be so particular about things. It's functional. Nobody in the world is going to stop and look at your purse strap that close and say, must be homemade. You must be just learning. Don't worry about stuff like that. But what I would like is to show you guys how we can fix mistakes so you don't lose an entire night of sleep if you're that whacked like me. Since we have this big chunk of mess here, I really don't want to cut it out because I don't want to lose the length of the strap. So I'm going to take some fabric. I'm going to make like a fabric loop. I'm going to pass the strap through the loop, and I'm going to bring the loop up to here, and it's going to cover that spot. And then if I still have 2 white buttons, and I probably do, I'm going to put a button on there. Then it's just going to look like it was part of the strap and meant to be. So let me work on that, and I'll show you what I'm doing. Get out. Better yet, I have some of the peach skin fabric with buttons. I'm going to be cutting these, and hopefully I can get that to wrap around. And I'm going to create my mistake covering loop with this. What I did is I wrapped this around the strap to make sure I had the piece big enough, and I folded back the raw edge and just pressed it down so that it looks all nice and clean on this side. I'm going to put the button on the inside, right sides together with the button inside, and I'm going to just stitch down this edge. I just stitched all the way down, and then I just backed up. Now I'm going to flip this little guy. Hopefully it's big enough. And I'm going to pass the strap through it. I'm going to cover the bad spot. Oh my goodness, it's working. Look, look, look. And I'm going to just stitch. Let's see, do I want to stitch across, or do I want to just stitch on the sides? I think I'm going to just stitch down, up and down on the sides. And now we have this, and I'm realizing that I still screwed up. I'm not going to even mention to you what I could have done differently, but I will do it differently if I ever do this again. I don't forget. Once I make a boo-boo and I learn a better way, I remember the better way. All right, I'm just going to go ahead and do the same to the other side, and then I will be back to put the strap on. I pinned the strap on one side, and I am going to just sew all the way around the strap and across the top. And I'm taking the pin out because pins bother me. And there we have it. And that's nice and secure. Now I'm just going to do the other side off camera, and then I will see you at my computer and we will talk about this project. I am going to do one last thing. I'm going to continue this stitching line over the strap, and that'll just reinforce it that much more. I'm so tired. It is clear to me that this tote bag is the hero of this video. I just love the way it came out. I just think it was so fun to try to find ways to put all the parts of those shirts to good use. Before I forget, I do want to show you guys that whoever wins this, if I ever put it on eBay, which I'm sure I will. Anyway, if you don't want to close it, you don't have to leave this little guy flapping around, because you can just hook it to the button that is there. See? So it just stays put. And I just love the strap with the little pointy tab that was pre-made. The fabrics just go really good together. I mean, it almost looks like a denim bag, but it's a knot. And again, you have pockets in the front this way, or you can open the flap and you could keep something in there that you don't have to get all the time, so you don't have to keep dealing with the button, and you could just leave it there. The strap is very long. You're going to see pictures on my young mannequin, and it hangs low. But I'm leaving the strap long because somebody might win this auction for the sake of the bag. I will be putting the skirt and the bag on auction together in case some skinny mini can fit into that skirt. I'll have measurements in the auction, and that they want the bag. But then I thought maybe somebody will just want to win it, just to win the bag, and if the skirt doesn't fit you at all or whatever, you can just donate it to Salvation Army or Goodwill or whatever you choose, or just give it to someone you know that it would fit, and then you get to keep the bag. If the strap is too long for you, so what I like about a long strap like this is I can put it over across my body and it hangs nice. It's not tight on me, it's not like up to my armpit. But if it's way too long for you, just take the top and just make a loop. Comme ça. And voila, you have a shorter strap. Look at the pictures. I promise the next Upcycled Fashion will not be this long. This is a lot of work for me. I worked on this, I think, 5 different days, a lot of editing. I was like, what the hell did I ever come up with a series like this for? I know there are some out there that do complete outfits and they just fast forward and the whole video is 2 minutes long. I don't know how they do that. Every day I try to get a little bit better at what I do. I just don't, I'm not a fan of long videos. I'm just not watching them and not making them. But anyway, this one's a long one. So I hope that you enjoyed, hope it was worth it, and I will be back with more soon. Bye! I didn't have a shirt for this mannequin to wear, so I just happened to have some stretchy silver fabric, and I just tied that around her. So you can see the skirt fits her nicely. If I put this on eBay, I will have the measurements on eBay. I really just love the subtle differences in the fabric. I don't know if you can actually see that, but we have the peach skin crepe, just really nice. This could actually go down on her hips a little more if she wants to have a more of a beachy look. Just so cute. Somebody get me a stretcher. I need to be hospitalized after this one. Please click my face to subscribe if you haven't yet. Thanks!